Greetings. Former Governor Tim Pawlenty here, welcoming you to the highlights of past Patriotic Day celebrations. Farmington has a long and strong record of recognizing, thanking, and supporting veterans. As part of those efforts, the entire community collaborates to host a remarkable recognition dinner and program. Notable speakers have included Senators Dole, Klobuchar and Dayton, Generals Shulstead, Shelitow, and Best, and many others. I had the honor of keynoting the 2019 Patriotic Day celebration. During my remarks, I highlighted that our freedom isn't free, but that we should always remember that not everyone pays the same price for it. Members of our military, their families, and veterans pay a big price, and they shoulder heavy burdens for the rest of us. I'm so proud of the community of Farmington. In fact, as governor, in 2008, I proclaimed Farmington as the very first yellow ribbon community. By remaining so committed to recognizing veterans, Farmington is setting a terrific example for all communities. Keep up the stellar work and enjoy the best of past Patriotic Day celebrations.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing with your hand over your heart while the Farmington High School Wind Ensemble, under the direction of Ms. Erin Holmes, leads the Star Spangled Banner with vocalist Ms. Megan Dimich.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
I,
meaning me, an individual, a committee of one,
pledge
Dedicate all my worldly goods to give without self-pity.
allegiance
my love and my devotion
to the flag
Our standard, Old Glory.
A symbol of freedom.
Wherever she waves.
There is respect because your loyalty has given her a dignity.
That shouts freedom is everybody's job.
of the United
that means that we have all come together.
States
Individual communities that have been united into 48 great states.
48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose.
All divided with imaginary boundaries yet united to a common cause.
And that's love of country.
of America and to the republic
A republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives, chosen by the people to govern.
Government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people.
for which it stands, one nation,
Meaning, so blessed by God.
indivisible,
incapable of being divided.
Incapable of being divided. Incapable of being divided.
with liberty,
which is freedom and the right of power to live one's life
without threats or fear
or any sort of retaliation,
and justice.
The principle and quality of dealing fairly with others.
for all.
which means boys and girls.
Is as much your country as it is mine.
Thank you, Farmington Middle School West and first graders. Thank you for that warm welcome. I was a little worried there in the introductions when Mr. Camp said, well, I want to welcome our distinguished guests and then also Senator Dayton. Kind of like the way I felt the week I took office and the Target Corporation announced they were changing the names of all the Dayton stores to Marshall Fields. And I figured that they decided that I was probably going to generate so much bad publicity for the Dayton name, they better change it while the getting out was good. But it's a real honor for me to participate with you in this very, very special ceremony to pay tribute to your special honorees. And I want to thank and give deserved credit to Mr. Stephen Geis, who has spearheaded this program here in Farmington and who visited with me a few months ago in Washington and gave me the invitation and the honor to participate here today. You know, Farmington is really in the forefront across this state in this very, very special program and this terrific idea and making it a reality. And I think Mr. Geis and all of you who are involved in Farmington who have spearheaded this program deserve our thanks. So thank you very much. And I want to tell your music directors of first grade and junior high choir and band, I wish that I had had you when I was in school. Yeah, that was terrific, really terrific. And to our distinguished graduates today, I salute you. And I want to make sure that the graduation party is well chaperoned. Make sure there's somebody volunteering for that. But I want to thank you not only for your dedicated, courageous service to our country years ago, but also for your willingness to participate in this program here this year. I'm not in exactly the same situation, but, you know, I just took office 2 years ago, sort of started my career, however long it lasts, in the Senate, and there were members of the Senate my age and younger who'd been there for 20 years or more, and I have friends of mine who are now retiring just as I'm beginning my belated career there. So I know the feeling of coming into a situation where maybe you're a little older than the norm, but I think that's makes it all the more special and all the more a tribute to each of you that you'd recognize the importance of a high school diploma and want to cap your very distinguished careers with receiving one. I also want to say to the students who are here today, don't get the notion from seeing these men who have had very successful lives and careers without a high school diploma, that that's a good idea. They are the exceptions, not the rule. And besides, their reason for not being in school is because they were taking part in wars in other parts of the globe. And I'm sure they would tell you that getting shot at is not a good alternative to homework or exams. And furthermore, these men are the fortunate ones. They came back alive from those experiences. There are others who left schools at the same time, their age, left their families and their homes from Minnesota and elsewhere who never returned. And certainly one of the most powerful experiences I've had in my life has been twice visiting Normandy Beach, and especially the American Cemetery, and standing in the silence and seeing 10,000 white crosses all lined up in rows and in diagonals and straight lines, and realizing, as someone said earlier, that freedom is not free, that it has to be won and it has to be protected always, and that for many of our fellow citizens it costs literally their lives to give us the freedoms that we enjoy and live every day.
Have you ever noticed on TV or at a military funeral that the honor guard pays meticulous attention to the correctly folding the American flag 13 times? Each fold of the U.S. flag has an important meaning. We have verified its accuracy at the U.S. Air Force Academy website. The first fold of the flag is a symbol of life. The second fold is a symbol of our belief in eternal life. The third fold is made in honor and remembrance of the veterans departing our ranks who gave a portion of their lives for the defense of our country to attain peace throughout the world. The fourth fold represents our weaker nation, for as American citizens trusting in God, it is to Him we turn in times of peace as well as in time of war for His divine guidance. The fifth fold is a tribute to our country, for the words of Stephen Decatur, our country, in dealing with other countries, may she always be right, but it is still our country, right or wrong. The sixth fold is where our hearts lie. It is with our heart that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The seventh fold is a tribute to our armed forces, for it is through the armed forces that we protect our country and our flag against all our enemies, whether they are found within or without the boundaries of our republic. The eighth fold is a tribute to the one who entered into the valley of the shadow of death, that we might see the light of day and to hear and to honor Mother, for whom it flies on Mother's Day. The ninth fold is a tribute to womanhood, for it has been through their faith, their love, loyalty, and devotion that their character of men and women who have made this country great has been molded. The 10th fold is a tribute to the Father, for He too has given His sons and daughters for the defense of our country since they were first born. The 11th fold is, in the eyes of Hebrew citizen, represents the lower portion of the seal of King David and King Solomon, and glorifies in their eyes the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The 12th fold in the eyes of Christian citizen represents an emblem of eternity and glorifies in their eyes God the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. When the flag is completely folded, the stars are uppermost, reminding us of our nation's motto, "In God we trust." After the flag is completely folded and tucked in, it takes on the appearance of a cocked hat, ever reminding us of the soldiers who served under General George Washington and the sailors and Marines who served under Captain John Paul Jones, those who were followed by their comrades and shipmates in the armed forces of the United States, preserving for us the rights, privileges, and freedoms we enjoy today. Boys and girls, this is the American flag folded properly 13 times.
Thank you very much for the terrific opportunity to be with you here today. It's great to be in Farmington, and it's great to see so many familiar faces. This spring, a number of Farmington middle school students made a trip out to Washington to learn about their government, and I was fortunate enough to meet you there. I hope that all of you will come back often, and the rest of you will come back next year, stop by my office to say hello. And if that speech that Alex gave here is any example of the kind of students that you have in this school, let me tell you, that is a terrific thing. Wouldn't you agree? Well, in my years in the Congress and as a member of the Minnesota legislature, I've been able to be part of a number of commencement ceremonies. When I speak to young people, I try to always encourage them to think big and reach for their dreams. Today is just a bit different because we are honoring some very special people. This afternoon, I'm honored to address not only Farmington Middle School students, but also some of our nation's finest and bravest veterans. Thousands of young men and women across this country left high school, and the comforts of home to serve gallantly in the armed forces during World War II. Their sacrifice ensured our freedom, built our country into a superpower, and shaped the entire course of history throughout the world. These are individuals who have given my generation and these students' generation the chance to pursue our dreams. They have made certain that we all have the freedom to think big. On behalf of the United States Congress, I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of the veterans here today, and I hope you'll join me. After the war, many veterans were not able to finish high school for various reasons, but led productive lives and built our communities over their lifetime. Two of these men are with us today. One of them is veteran Mike Pelock. You know Mike Pelock. Mr. Pelock served bravely as an Air Force medic, saving lives in the South Pacific. In the true spirit of service, Mr. Pelock continues to be active in the community through the VFW, his local church, and in Dakota City. Another such man is veteran Rex Arnold Pettis. Mr. Pettis served courageously in the U.S. Naval Reserve on the submarine Bluegill, which was credited with sinking about 17 enemy ships. Not just a model soldier, he's also been a model citizen and has generously donated his time for 4 years as a volunteer at Farmington Middle School and is known as the Pancake Man in his community. I understand he makes good pancakes too. You all agree with that? I want to take this moment to recognize another heroic soldier one who made the ultimate sacrifice for his country. His name is Ray Pettis, and he died bravely in France. He is also the brother of veteran Rex Pettis. When Mr. Pettis walks across the stage this afternoon, he will also be walking in honor and recognition of his brother Ray. I also want to recognize veteran James Borman. Mr. Borman passed away in October. He served in the U.S. Army and planned to receive his diploma today. His sons will receive his diploma on his behalf. I want to let Mr. Borman and Mr. Pettis' families and loved ones know that we are forever grateful for the sacrifices they made for our country and to preserve our way of life.
Preamble.
The first part of something, an introduction.
We, the people of the United States,
All the people in our country, including kids,
in order to form a more perfect union,
to come together and make things better for everyone who lives in our country,
establish justice,
to make things fair and honest for everyone,
ensure domestic tranquility,
To make sure we all can have a nice life,
and to get along with one another,
provide for the common defense,
to protect us
from other people or countries
who might try to harm us, as in a war, and to help us if we have been harmed,
promote the general welfare,
to help make life good for everybody, having enough to eat, a place to live, being safe, and having friends and fun times are some of the things that make our lives good.
And secure the blessings of liberty.
To protect our rights and freedoms and not let anyone take them away.
Being able to choose our religion, to say what we think.
And to get together with friends, family, and other people
are some of the freedoms we have.
To ourselves and our posterity.
For kids, parents, other grown-ups,
and all the people born in our country after we are.
Do ordain and establish this Constitution.
To write down and then to live by a list of rules and promises for our government to keep and our people to obey.
For the United States of America.
Our country where we live.
I was honored to be here a few years ago and talk to the students. And I was so impressed with Farmington and what you do to honor veterans and to honor America. We live in a great nation, a great, great nation. It's really an experiment in democracy and freedom. It's been operating for about 240 years. We don't know how long it will last. It could end at any time. It almost did end in World War II. Had Nazi Germany defeated the United States, we wouldn't be here right now, and we wouldn't be celebrating Patriotism Day or Veterans Day. Is it a perfect country? Of course not. We have a lot of problems, and all you have to do is turn on the television or read the newspaper, and you will see that we have many problems, but people like Congressman Lewis will be working to repair many of them. However, when people complain about our country, I don't see anybody getting on a one-way airplane trip or ship to leave our nation, but I sure see millions of people around the world who do anything, including risking their lives, to move into this country. Have any of you ever bought a lottery ticket? Raise your hand if you bought a lottery ticket. It's okay. It's okay. Did any of you win? Every single person in this room won the lottery because you live in the United States of America. You have won the lottery. Well, why are we here today? Why are we celebrating Veterans Day? Reading the paper this morning, all of the advertising inserts in there, I realized this is a good day to buy a hot tub, buy a mattress, get 10% off in a lot of department stores. But on Saturday, we celebrate Armistice Day. That was the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month that ended World War I. Remember, that was the war that was going to end all wars, if only that had been the case. But unfortunately, in our history, even though we are a peace-loving nation, we've had to fight almost a dozen wars. Some of them were controversial. Some of them were for our very existence, like World War II. So that had changed from Armistice Day to Veterans Day. Veterans Day, when we recognize, honor, and thank all of the people who have sacrificed, many of them sacrificing their lives, to defend this nation. And you've gone even one step further in Farmington, because here it is Patriotic Day, not just Veterans Day. And that makes me so proud to see you doing this.
This November marks the 100-year anniversary of Armistice Day. That day, November 11th, 1918, at 11 a.m., the Allied powers signed a ceasefire agreement with Germany, bringing World War I to an end. President Woodrow Wilson proclaimed the first Armistice Day the following year. He said, "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service, and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it freed us, and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy, peace, and justice to the Council of Nations." Before the Second World War, November 11th was known as Armistice Day in the United States, Great Britain, and France. After the Second World War, the British Commonwealth countries called the holiday Remembrance Day. To this day, in Great Britain, people will stop and remember at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month to pay tribute to all that have fallen in all of the conflicts throughout the world. Beginning in 1954, the United States designated November 11th as Veterans Day, as a tribute to veterans of all wars. Here in the U.S., the day is commemorated with many different ceremonies.
Let us pray in the name of those who have fallen in this country's wars, that there will be no veterans of any further war, not because all shall have perished, but because all shall have learned to live together in peace.
You may see poppies adorning some of our veterans' lapels. The poppies are a symbol of that first Armistice Day. It was first revealed in the poem In Flanders Fields, written by Canadian Lieutenant John McCrae. In the United States, the American Legion Auxiliary has continued this symbol. The poppy, as a memorial flower of the war dead, can be traced to a single individual, Moynia Michael. She was so moved by Lieutenant Colonel McCrae's poem, In Flanders Fields, that she wrote a response. "The blood of heroes never dies, but lends a luster to the red of the flower that blooms above the dead in Flanders Fields."
Thank you so much, Farmington. Thank you for inviting me here today. It is such an honor to join you for this occasion, and I am so impressed. Thank you all for coming out today to help celebrate our country and those who serve it. With Veterans Day tomorrow, today's focus on patriotism is very, very fitting. My father served in World War II, and I remember watching both my brothers leave to serve in Vietnam. I also remember how our returning Vietnam veterans did not receive the welcome home that they deserve for their sacrifices. We as a country cannot repeat those mistakes again, and I don't think we will. It is vitally important that our nation's veterans and those currently serving know that we are standing steadfastly behind all of them, that we will continue to stand with them when they return home to their communities across this great land. Veterans are our friends, our relatives, our businessmen and women, our neighbors, our co-workers, firefighters, our policemen and women. They are our kids' baseball coaches, and they are our Boy Scout leaders. They are the people we know, and they are the people we may never meet. The only reason we enjoy the freedom and liberty and safety that we do today is because of the sacrifice of our veterans. The reason that America continues to be the land of the free and the home of the brave is because of these veterans. They have taken on their shoulders the burden of war to give our children a safer and freer world. They left behind their families, stood with their comrades on the field of battle. Our servicemen and women have known the hardships and the fears and the tragic losses of war. Yet they are preserved, they persevered, in the harshest hours of their conflicts, recognizing that they pursued a just and noble cause. For those of you here who have served, I want to personally thank you for your service and your sacrifice, and for all that you have done and all that you will do. And I also want to thank the families. Thank you to the Blue and Gold Star families for the sacrifices you've made.
Patriotism, that's a very interesting subject. If you ask me, I think patriotism begins with one's love, support, and defense of a country. It can be emotional, it can be engaging, depending on your values, your culture, or where you were when. For example, a World War II veteran of the greatest generation might express patriotism differently than, say, a veteran from the Korean conflict or the Vietnam era or even the Gulf War. In my mind, it all comes down to love of country and a gratitude to those who came before us, who have paved the way for our continued freedom. So I guess that's what patriotism is to me.
I think patriotism is being loyal to one's country. For us, that means the USA. My grandpa was in the Navy and proudly served our great nation in the Korean War. When I look at him, I feel proud of our veterans. Patriotism means a veteran saluting our flag, saying the Pledge of Allegiance before school, or those who are serving our country.
To us, patriotism means loving and supporting our country.
Here's one quote we believe shows patriotism. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Spoken by President JFK.
We believe this quote means we need to put others and our community before ourselves.
We're so thankful for our veterans because they fought for our freedom.
Because of them, we can live the life we wanted.
The dictionary defines patriotism as love or devotion to one's country. And I can honestly say I do love my country. I would always want to live in the United States of America. It's not just loving a country blindly, though, and it's not loving everything your country does. Patriotism means, to me, supporting the people of your country, working to make it better. Patriotism is trying to make your country the best that it can be.
I'm Andy Durner. I'm a veteran from the Korean War, and I was asked by Dr. Geist to say a little about patriotism here this evening. And of course I want to say that all the veterans are very patriotic and they deserve a lot of credit. But I also want to add the patriotism that we're getting out of this meeting here tonight. And I especially enjoy the song that the first graders sing, "This land is my land, this land is your land." And I think there's a lot of patriotism right there. And if you listen to the song, they tell about how great this state is. This land is my land, this land is your land, this land is yours and mine. And so we share it, we should share it. And I don't know if we share it as good as we should, but I'm very happy they sing this song. And the teachers that teach these young people how to sing this song, when you get 200 kids or so, or whatever the number is, they do such a perfect job of hitting the notes at the same time. I'm just very happy about it, and I congratulate you, and I congratulate the teachers for helping us enjoy this evening program of patriotism. Patriotism is a great thing, and I think a lot of us don't think that much about it, and I guess I didn't either until I got involved with helping to put on this program. And I just want to thank the high school band for the work that they do. That's all patriotic work, and it's just an enjoyable evening. It's an evening to learn. It's an evening to say to each other, thank you, and enjoy life. And see you again next year.
but mostly it is great to be here with all of you veterans. And I think you know we are coming on to Veterans Day, and it's a really important moment to look back at the sacrifice, some of people who made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. And at one of the moments in time where we have a lot of disagreements on things, and we've in the past had disagreements in our country about wars and the extent to which we should engage in them and whether we should and if we should, the one thing that we have learned over the years is you can have those policy disagreements. That's part of America, and that's part of what we're supposed to do in Washington, but you should never take it out on the warriors on the front line. They are serving our country. And I was reminded of that once when I was at an event like you had today for your veterans, where you had the pork chop dinner, and I was at one in the Twin Cities where they called Serving Our Troops, where they serve the families of our soldiers who are deployed steaks. And there was a guy working the line, and he had this Vietnam vet cap on, and I said, thank you for what you've done, and thank you for volunteering today. And he was standing there dishing out mashed potatoes, and he said, you know, when I came back, I didn't get a steak dinner or mashed potatoes. I got tomatoes thrown at me. And he said, I don't want it ever to happen to anyone again, and that's why I'm part of this. And so just this sheer act of everyone in the community coming together, like you're doing today, is part of that, of honoring this strong tradition we have of service in America, but also honoring those who have served and those who are serving now. We lost a great veteran in the last year, and that was my good friend John McCain. And I had the privilege to go with him and Senator Lindsey Graham, the three of us, to Vietnam, and to stand in front of the cell where he had been held for 5.5 years. And it was in that cell that he made the decision to allow others to be released before him, because they were trying to mess around with his head and with our country by allowing him to be released first, because his dad was in a high-ranking position in the military. And he made the heroic decision to not be released, to allow others to be released before him. And he was beaten and tortured in that prison. It's one of the reasons through his life, if you've traveled with him a lot like I did, he couldn't even comb his hair. And I don't know if people realize that. He couldn't put on a suit coat because he couldn't move his arm. And that's why he always kind of would have funny gestures like that. And it's because of the torture that he had encountered when he served. So he also had this incredible resiliency, like so many of our vets have. And he also had this wicked sense of humor. I remember when we left that cell and we were walking on this tour, the guide, who was very happy, and there was all these people behind us, showed us a picture of the wall of a new exhibit. And it was an exhibit of GIs that were prisoners of war playing table tennis and singing around a Christmas tree. And she said, here's our new exhibit. And he turned to me and said, I don't remember that. We then turned a corner, and there was another new exhibit of his flight suit, and it was in a glass box. And she said, here is a new exhibit, Senator McCain, this is your flight suit. And it was this pristine flight suit with his name embroidered. But next to it was a picture of him being shot down, and the flight suit was all torn up. She said, this is your flight suit. And he said, thank you, and everyone's taking pictures. There's like 300 reporters behind us. And we turn another corner, and he whispers to me, that wasn't my flight suit.
We have heard over and over again the phrase, freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free. But I like to add another phrase to that. I like to add, but not everybody pays the same price. Ladies and gentlemen, you know that the men and women who serve in our United States military shoulder the weight and burden way disproportionately for our nation and throughout history for the security and freedom of this nation. The men and women in our military, our veterans and their families deserve our enduring and deep thanks and gratitude. I want to... I was at an event when I was governor at a high school not too far from here. It was during the day. It was in one of the adjoining towns. And we had a nice event, and nice words were said. And I was walking out to my car, and a gentleman was alongside of me, and I just happened to notice he was sort of walking with the same pace and stride that I was, and I introduced myself, and I said, "What brings you here?" And he said, "I'm a Vietnam War veteran." And I said, "Well, I'm glad you're here. Do you come to many of these kinds of events?" This was just, in the early 2000s. He said, "I haven't been to a military or veterans-related event since the war." And I said, "How come?" He said, "I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel welcome." We have people in our midst and in our history who we not only have to make sure feel welcome, but that they have a place of honor and appreciation in our society. I am so, so grateful for the city of Farmington, for all of the people who put this event together to assemble, literally, physically, symbolically, virtually, through word of mouth and otherwise, to say, even though it's cold outside, even though our lives are busy, even though you could be doing 10 or 20 other things, it was important for you to be here tonight to make a statement about the importance of being patriotic, and underneath that, making sure we always say thank you, remember, and honor our members of the military, our veterans, and their families. John F. Kennedy said that Americans, by nature, are optimistic. I love that phrase. Americans, by nature, are optimistic. That has to be true because we have in this United States a get it done, try new things, anything's possible. We're strong and courageous, let's go attitude that can only take place if you're optimistic about yourself and your place and your country. It couldn't exist unless we were optimists. And I want to talk tonight in a time where not everybody always feels quite so optimistic about why we should remain hopeful and optimistic about this great nation.
This is a project that's been 3 years in the making. You're going to learn more about it as we go.
So, a little story about when this was starting to happen. They came to the city council and they were wondering what park they should put it in. They looked at several places and then they kind of decided on this park, which is a good thing to do. And then they staked it. Leon was out here and put a stake here, put a stake there. Perfect. No, it's not quite right. Leon says, come out and restake it. So they tweaked it a little bit and they staked it again. Leon looked at it and said, no, that's not going to work either. A couple more times of doing that, finally our city engineer said, Leon, you have one more shot. Tell us where the stakes need to be. And I think he did a fantastic job because it is perfect right where it is. So.
Those who with great courage, bravery, resolve, perseverance, commitment, passion, sacrifice, and patriotism define those words for us. And those who have so faithfully answered the call to guard and to protect, to stand in harm's way, to make the ultimate sacrifice if needed on our behalf, that we would continue to know and live each day with the rights and freedoms that we have. I'm humbly here today to represent, very humbly, our faith communities. We are one nation under God. Truly, we give thanks for those who fought to uphold the religious rights and freedoms of this nation. Today we give thanks to God, the one who is almighty, all-powerful, ever-faithful. And while we give thanks to the Lord for his steadfast love that endures forever, and while we call upon the one who comforts, so comforts his people everywhere, and while we trust in the one whose name is majestic in all the earth, we also call upon the one who has made it clearly known that one day indeed, swords will be beaten into plowshares, spears into pruning hooks, and war will be no more.
First of all, as was previously mentioned, I want to make sure to thank Leon Orr and all the volunteers for helping make this beautiful, beautiful memorial a reality. Just absolutely incredible. And you know, right now I'd like, instead of speaking to the veterans or the adults, I actually want to speak to the young children who are here today, some of the kids. And I hope you know, you turn on the TV today and you watch movies, you see a lot of movies with superheroes. Iron Man, Superman, Spider-Man. And kids, I hope I'm not hurting your feelings at all, but you know, those characters aren't real. They're not, in reality, they're not superheroes. But I want you to look around here, children. I want you to look around at these adults. Some of these men and women who have kind of different hats you're not used to seeing. Ones that they're in military uniform. Take a look at them. Those are real life superheroes.
One thing this committee never did, when we started actually with Howard Miller, for those that knew Howard, he's actually the one who started the committee. His health required that he step aside. It was after he stepped aside that I became the chairperson and took it from there. But one thing I can tell you from beginning with Howard to dedication, the committee never once even thought about quitting or that we weren't going to be able to do the project. And that was a little bit unusual because efforts had been made in many years past, back to the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, to do a memorial. But this committee never once, the subject never came up that maybe we weren't going to do this. But one thing never changed. We developed the concept for this plan early on, which said the focal point would be up front for those who were killed, with a large granite folded flag and the names of those who were killed below. And we wanted to go a step further. In most memorials you look at, they just have a list of names. We wanted, when you look at that tablet, that you see a picture of a person. That's why you see the branch of service, the name, what war they were killed in, what date they were killed, and very important, what age they were killed. If you look at that down the line, most of them are 21, 22, 25. And the reason that, you know, touches a person like me is I have 6 grandsons, 21 through 30. So I can only imagine.
I am a veteran. And to Howard Miller, who had this vision, and to all those on the organizing committee who have toiled so diligently for this great memorial, I say thank you for taking the effort over the past 3 years to make this dream become a reality. Much is owed to you and your sacrifices. As I prepared to speak here this afternoon, I took just a few moments to reflect. The question that came to my mind is, just what is a veteran, and how did they become one? I did not set out on my journey within the Army to become a veteran. I don't think any young American wakes up one day and says, I want to be a veteran, as they do a fireman or a doctor. Quite the opposite is closer to the truth. I was going to do just my first 6 years and see what it was like. The world was a different place then, and I felt confident that I would never really be needed for the defense of Europe against the Soviet Union. This is probably the same for the Nelson family, 6 siblings who all served in World War II. One of the Nelsons, Fred Nelson, distinguished himself by flying 52 combat air missions, being shot down over enemy territory, and somehow escaping back to friendly forces. Another, Harold Roy, volunteered for the Parachute Infantry Division during World War II and distinguished himself by making 2 combat jumps, one during the Normandy invasion and the second during the Battle of the Bulge. Or similar to the experiences of Gene Thermes, who joined the Navy and served on a supply ship during the Korean War. Without his efforts and the efforts of many like him, the war could not go on. Fred, Harold, and Gene, thank you for being with us here today.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But, in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Next on our program are two numbers by a combined choir of fourth grade students from all elementary schools in District 192. The choir is under the direction and accompaniment of the 5 elementary school music specialists. Please welcome the fourth grade choir as they present This Land Is Your Land and Thank You Soldiers.
Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream water.
active military members and retired military members, we are going to honor you now with your song. And so this is the Armed Forces Salute. When you hear your song for your branch, please stand and we can give you some recognition. Under the direction of the lovely Miss Erin Holmes, the Wind Ensemble will perform the Armed Salute. The United States Army, the Kaesong Song. The United States Coast Guard. The U.S. Marines and the Marines Hymn. The United States Air Force. And anchoring it away, the United States Navy.
Hello, my name is Jason Berg, and I am the superintendent of Farmington Area Public Schools. I want to thank you for taking the time to join our virtual Veterans Day program. Our district has been fortunate enough to host the Patriotic Day celebration for over 20 years. It is only through the hard work of our community partners that this yearly event brings people from across our community together in celebration of our veterans. This is not only an opportunity to thank those that have served, but those who will choose to serve in the future. It is through our veterans' service and sacrifice that we are able to enjoy the freedoms we have today. Let me end this program by saying thank you to those who keep us safe both home and abroad. Thank you to those that run towards danger and those that fight for those who cannot. And more than anything, thank you for your service.